Assalamualaikum class, kindly mark your attendance in the chat option. I could see few issues that are emerging from the presentation in groups. Although I've got the sequence of things from your CR, and I suggested that you should be getting your approvals first from me as a topic. Most of the topics seems fine to me, but then there are topics who've been chosen by groups, but I haven't got approval from my side. And I think they themselves will realize that they are picking up topics that are not that relevant to us. Also, in terms of topics that are very minor, smaller in nature, and a group of 10, 11, 12 people will not be able to handle much. So therefore, it's important that you should pick and choose topics and get them approved from me. It's very important that the topics should be approved so that you are all taking up options that are good enough, and so that you'll be able to compile your things accordingly. As far as the sequence of things is concerned, I think the final term exams are scheduled from 15th of June. So we have around 2 to 3 weeks available, 3 to 4 weeks available into this. The presentations will start from the first week of June, or the last ending of the month. That is from 31st of May to 1st of June, the week that starts. So the first week of June will be the presentation startup point. If you haven't got your uh, content ready, your topics haven't got approved, so you get it done in this week specifically and start working and compiling your things. If there are any deficiencies left, you should consult me, ask questions through your WhatsApp option, and I will be able to guide and help you out. Start sharing your table of contents, and so that we are all on single page. I'm sorry for a slight background noise that is coming. I'm currently in my car taking up the lecture because I've been like bound with so many things around there. And also there were issues with electricity in the campus and here and there. So not taking much risk. I am using my mobile internet and my laptop is slightly charged up. So I hope this will be a smooth session without any uh, issue as far as the connectivity is concerned. First session, we will try to conclude our chapter on corporate social responsibility and ethics. First part of this chapter, we will have completed our debate on corporate social responsibility. What is corporate social responsibility? How corporate social responsibility is to be managed? The Carroll's model of social responsibility. We looked at that. Also, we looked at why and why not a corporate social responsibility. We looked at argument in favor, argument against. We also put some light on the uh, specific aspects of the natural environment. We looked at social responsibility from the perspective of maintaining, developing, and improving the natural environment. We looked at greening of management as a concept. Now we're focusing on one of the major theme that is driving social responsibility in terms of ethics. In fact, you will find that you'll be having a complete full-fledged course on business ethics in the sixth semester. That is, your program is designed like that. In your sixth semester, you'll be having a course on business ethics. This is a very interesting one, an eye opener, which suggests that many businesses are falling short in terms of keeping and maintaining ethical standards. That's why most of their managers are involved in ethical dilemmas. That is, they be facing challenges of picking and choosing options that might be right or might be wrong. So the ethics is the greater division, the classification of what is right and what is wrong. So it is a science that distinguishes between what is righteous and what is wrong. How we decide what is right and what is wrong, most likely, uh, the guidelines are available from the general community, society, religion, and also the rules and regulations formulated by the governments. Generally, there are very specific, pinpoint ethical standards and guidelines available for all industries, all business areas, including finance, marketing, uh, management, and many more. Now, what about ethics, say in the 60s and 70s? I think many people had no idea what ethics is about. It is something that has recently been into the mainstream line, where businesses basically are under pressure, immense pressure to improve their ethical standards. As we've seen that there is a huge question mark on the uh, image and repute of giant bigger corporations, and therefore organizations are under huge pressure to build up their repute and develop a mechanism through which their managers are bound to make ethical decisions and avoid unethical practices. Um, in many ways, we could define what unethical practices are. In extreme cases, you find that managers are committing financial frauds, where they be like taking up um, bribes and gifts from suppliers and will not show these within the actual transactions of the company, and therefore they taking their personal interest, taking the side of their personal interest, and are not taking care of the organizational interest. So conflict of interest generates a lot of issues. Also, we find that many managers are found in regular practices where they cross the ethical lines. For example, they harass others because they don't belong to their same race, gender, or ethnicity. We call it discrimination. So discrimination is another type of issue that you see raises the ethical dilemmas. There are multiple other issues like privacy and security, confidentiality, trustworthiness, and many more. Tax evasion, where the organizations are looking forward to evade tax, is another form of unethical practice. And because these are all rising because of these scandals that are linked with giant organizations, even like companies like Boeing and Google, many more are accused of not providing fair and just treatment to their employees. This calls for relooking at business practices in the light of ethics, which is sort of a moral obligation that now binds managers so that they behave in an ethical way. So, business ethics is definitely a study of business practices, behaviors that understand, acknowledge, identify, understand, and rectify ethical issues that are connecting the organization. Now, if you look at this phenomena, you will realize that the issue of ethics involves not only the investors, owners, rather, it is an important idea to look beyond them. That is, as a manager, as an employee, you should be broadening your view and bring the stakeholder perspective into. Remember the stakeholder relationship theory we started in the third chapter in the environmental chapter, and now in the start of this chapter as well. All stakeholders are critical to the organization, including community members. So if you are creating harmful products, you are not taking care of the interest of the customers. Customers have rights, consumer rights, we call them. As we see that once the things are become popular in the area of business ethics, governments are forced to make legislations based on that. Many laws, like Environmental Protection Act in the United States, also the Consumer Rights Act, also the anti-discrimination laws. You'll be discussing that in further detail in human resource management courses in the upcoming semester. These are all because those were ethical issues. Ethical issues got multiplied, and therefore they became such big, huge issues that governments need to then make legislations, laws based on that. So that is the path. Ethics guide the whole sequence of things. If they become uncontrollable, then you need to enforce it through compliance and legal mechanism or structure. That is the business ethics that is guiding us. Many ethical issues, dilemmas are there because managers on daily basis find themselves into ethical situations where they need to pick and choose either way. At times, they're putting too much first at work, and therefore their family has been compromised. At times, they're focusing on family and compromising their work. So the balance between work and life and family is totally out of balance. This is one of the major crises in the modern world, 21st century. Uh, Poor leadership. The leaders are asking you to, bosses are asking you to accomplish something, but not providing ample support, vision, guideline, or resources. That's why your task is not completed. Extraordinary workload, work hours. This is perhaps the biggest crisis that the multinationals are associated with. They give you good enough package, but then they extract the best out of you in terms of your time and effort. And that's why you're always overloaded, under stress. This is one of the other crises. The top management is finding that the sense of burnout is among people, which is not the balanced way of approaching the work. So you see, it requires a natural, delicate balance between things. And if you're pushing people to do extra work, you're not paying them, then I think this is absolutely unethical, unlawful as well. So you find that there is a thin line between what is right and what is wrong. And many people don't believe that is wrong. They see this as their management advantage, a practice where they extract a lot of effort from their workers and don't pay them much. So that's why uh, ethics is something that is not in bigger scandals, not only in bigger scandals and issues, rather ethics is a day-to-day stuff happening around in workplaces. Company politics, as you can see, that is one of the other area which is very common. Groups and rifts between groups is a very regular activity. If you're part of a certain group and that group is not in power within the company, another group is around there, you see that your tasks will be held up and you'll be pushed to limits by your opponents. And that's why politics remains one of the real life activity, actual practical situation and challenge in the company. And none of the companies are could be able to avoid politics. Politics is always there, less or more, which is people need to live up with that. At times, it crosses the boundaries where fair and justness is lost, and therefore ethical issues tend to rise. At times, people are put into pressure in terms of their objectives too much, over exercise objectives like overriding sales targets, where sales may not able to meet those are also unethical issues. If you are on a work and you're not given enough resources and you are blamed for poor performance, then this is also an ethical practice because insufficient resources make it very difficult for you to make. Even financial crises, financial personal issues, they all give rise to unethical problems. That's why people corrupt practices, take bribes, look for black money so that they're able to run their businesses. At times, lift and shoplift items. At times, these resources use companies' resources for their personal use. So there are a lot of issues as far as the ethics is concerned. How to solve this? Idea is to develop and maintain an ethical culture or a climate. For that, organizations do conduct ethical training. These trainings are for managers who are neither moral, but then are morally lazy. Some of us most probably acknowledge the fact that trustworthiness, integrity, confidence, fair treatment, these are good items. आप पूछें कोई कि ये अच्छी बात है, ये बुरी बात है, तो आप सब कहेंगे ये अच्छी चीजें हैं. But problem is that we are very lazy about it. जहाँ हमें ethical act करना होता है, वहाँ हम lazy हो जाते हैं और इस वजह से हम उनको follow नहीं करते. That's why our religion always repeat things as well. वो बार बार recall करने का method है कि आपने इन चीज़ों को follow करना है. Same is the case, August, you need to recall it again and again for the workers so that they have an idea how to be moral managers. For that case, you need to have a communication mechanism, top management support, also develop a code of ethics. We will call it the guidelines and principles for workers so that they have something to follow. And if people deviate from that, logically you will find that there will be a punishment and reward system based on that. सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम जो ethics के वाले से होता है that there should be a system where you be able to report and you are not retaliated, यानी आपके खिलाफ anonymous method of reporting जो है इसको encourage करने की जरूरत भी है. That is the way the top notch companies are now tackling ethical issues. Best thing they could develop is a code of ethics, universally acceptable principles of expected behaviors. For example, you could define that kickbacks, payoffs, gifts, manipulation records, misleading product claims are bad practices, should be avoided. Whereas trustworthiness, respect for others, professional integrity, so that is the way we look at code of ethics. They clearly define the way the companies operate and guide their workers what to do. So I hope you have an idea. You have an idea how this code of ethics is applied within the company. So you have an idea how this code of ethics plays an important role in defining how people will act and behave in a given company. Uh, Once you look at code of ethics, we see that there are two parts of it: professional ethics and personal ethics. Both are tackled by companies. Past code of ethics were more based on how operations will be carried out, how people will be. Past code of ethics were based on how people will be acting in regular business operations and how they be like performing their duties on regular things. So now code of ethics are very comprehensive documents talking about natural environment, about customer care, about illegal practices, and established government legislations, laws governing fairness, justness. So the companies have very sophisticated documents now available. I will conclude this session. This is the end of this chapter. We will be back, inshallah, at 2 p.m. Short a break between the two sessions. I'll be back at 2 p.m. for another session. Idea is to start the next one, the next chapter that is based on planning and strategic planning. Eventually, we are touching some part of the Polk model, planning, organizing, and controlling. And I will give you a brief introduction about it. And then in tomorrow class, we will have a comprehensive session on one of the major planning aspect, that is the strategic management. थोड़ा सा हॉप करना पड़ रहा है, यानी हम क्विक चल रहे हैं, थोड़ा सा जंप इन भी कर रहे हैं कि टॉपिक्स के वाले से, क्योंकि हमारे पास टाइम डेफिनेटली शॉर्ट हो रहा है. तो इंशाल्लाह नेक्स्ट आने वाले वीक में भी और इस वीक में अब सेकेंड सेशन में और फिर कल वाली क्लास में हम प्लानिंग और स्ट्रेटेजिक मैनेजमेंट के ऊपर डिस्कशन करेंगे. जस्ट अ ब्रेक ऑफ 20 मिनट्स. आई विल बी इन अ शॉर्ट मीटिंग. मैं 2 o'clock पे फिर दोबारा सेशन को ज्वाइन करूंगा. तब तक आप ब्रेक कर सकते हैं, नमाज पढ़ सकते हैं, अपनी पर्सनल एक्टिविटी कर सकते हैं. 2 बजे हम रिज्यूम करेंगे.